me just tell you the truth. I know I'm talking about the satisfaction of the soul, but let me tell you the truth. Do you realize about 90% of marital problems are... Listen, I do counseling of a lot of people I know.
Many people know Pastor Lovy Elias as a popular preacher who built a huge following through his powerful messages, bold teachings, and claims of spiritual insight. For years, many admired him as a respected man of faith and looked to him for guidance. But now, rumors about his personal life have left many people asking difficult questions. His wife has finally decided to speak out. So, what did she really say? Are the rumors true or false? And why has her statement captured so much attention? Pastor Lovy Elias controversy. For many years, Pastor Lovy Elias was seen as a source of hope and inspiration. He preached about love, faith, forgiveness, and kindness, and many people believed he was a devoted servant of God. His church became more than just a place of worship. It grew into a powerful movement that attracted thousands of followers, including celebrities and well-known public figures. His messages inspired many lives, and his influence in the Christian community continued to grow. However, not everyone accepted his success without question. Some people quietly wondered how he had risen to such prominence. Rumors occasionally surfaced, along with small controversies, but there was never enough evidence to prove any wrongdoing. For a long time, those stories remained nothing more than speculation. Then, everything seemed to change. What began as a single accusation soon grew into something much bigger. At first, one person's claims were easy for many people to dismiss, but before long, more voices began speaking out. As the number of accusations increased, social media was flooded with discussions that shook the foundation of Pastor Lovy's ministry. The allegations were serious and caused many people to question whether he was truly the person he had always claimed to be. Several women came forward with similar stories. They said they had trusted him and believed in his teachings, but claimed that their private experiences with him were very different from his public image. They described manipulation, betrayal, and behavior they believed was completely unacceptable for a religious leader. As more accusations appeared, confusion spread among his followers. Some strongly defended him, insisting he was being falsely accused by people trying to destroy his reputation and ministry. Others became uncertain and began looking back at past incidents that had once seemed unimportant, but now appeared more suspicious. Pastor Lovy's silence only increased the speculation. Days turned into weeks without any public statement, denial, or explanation. The lack of a response left many people wondering why he had chosen to remain silent. The situation became even more dramatic when someone who claimed to have worked closely with Pastor Lovy decided to speak publicly. The individual alleged that complaints had been made internally before, but were never properly addressed. According to the claims, some people were pressured to remain quiet and move on instead of pursuing their complaints. As more allegations surfaced, public attention continued to grow, raising serious questions about what had really happened. Soon, the story dominated television, newspapers, and social media. News organizations examined every new development, while online debates became more intense. Some people believed Pastor Lovy was preparing a legal response, while others wondered where he was and why he had not spoken publicly. The controversy grew even larger after an alleged leaked audio recording appeared online. The recording was never independently verified, but many people claimed the voice sounded like Pastor Lovy's. In the recording, the speaker appeared emotional while talking privately with another person. However, a statement attributed to the recording, "They're all turning against me. They weren't supposed to talk," quickly spread across social media, leaving supporters and critics debating its authenticity and what it might mean. What did those words really mean? Were they an admission of guilt, or was he talking about a much larger plot against him? Let's find out. Missing without a trace. The recording ended without warning, but the effect it had was huge. Under growing pressure, the church leaders finally spoke out. They announced that they had started an internal investigation and that Pastor Lovy would be suspended until further notice. But by then, the damage had already been done. Donations dropped sharply, fewer people came to church services, and the once united congregation became deeply divided. Some people wanted justice, while others believed Pastor Lovy was being falsely accused. The church had never experienced a scandal this serious, and many wondered if it could recover. At the same time, reporters began looking more closely into Pastor Lovy's past and found several unusual details that raised more questions. People who had known him before he became well known described him as highly ambitious and, at times, ruthless. Some former church members claimed they had noticed signs of improper behavior years earlier, but were too afraid to speak out. Others even suggested that he had connections with powerful people who helped keep earlier accusations hidden. If these claims were true, the scandal was far bigger than anyone had expected. Then the story took an even more shocking turn. One of the women who had accused Pastor Lovy suddenly disappeared. Her name was Anita, and she had been among the first to publicly make allegations. Only a few days before she was supposed to give a public statement, she vanished without leaving any trace. Her family became desperate and begged for help as rumors and conspiracy theories spread quickly. Had she left on her own, or had someone forced her to disappear? The case suddenly became much darker, and many people began to fear that this was no longer just a church scandal, but something much more dangerous. Anita's disappearance shocked the entire community. Television stations reported the story around the clock, showing her photograph again and again. Crowds gathered outside the church, lighting candles and demanding answers. Police opened a full investigation, but they found no useful clues. There were no signs that anyone had forced their way into her home, no messages, and no evidence showing where she had gone. It seemed as if she had simply disappeared. Her family continued pleading for her safe return, while fear spread throughout the community. Some people quietly believed this was no longer just a scandal, but an attempt to hide the truth. As the pressure continued to grow, another surprising claim came to light. A former church accountant stepped forward, saying that Pastor Lovy had secretly moved large amounts of church money into private bank accounts. The accountant presented documents, bank transfer records, offshore financial papers, and even signed documents that were said to belong to the pastor. The sums involved were enormous. According to the claims, millions of dollars had been transferred under mysterious and unexplained circumstances. Where had all the money gone? Who else might have been involved? And the biggest question of all, was any of it connected to Anita's disappearance? Let's explore further. Church in crisis. The church leaders, now rushing to deal with the growing crisis, called an emergency meeting. It was meant to be a private discussion, but details quickly leaked to the public. People who claimed to know what happened said the meeting became very heated. Some board members demanded that Pastor Lovy be arrested immediately, while others argued that there was still no solid evidence against him. The church leaders were deeply divided, just like the community. Some people continued to support the pastor, saying he was being targeted by false accusations and unfair media coverage. Others believed he was hiding something much darker than anyone had expected. Just when it seemed the situation could not get any worse, another woman came forward with new accusations. She chose to keep her identity secret, but her story sounded very similar to the others. By this point, the pattern was becoming hard to ignore. More people began speaking out, including former church workers and members who had left the church years earlier. They shared stories of manipulation, secrecy, and threats. It was becoming clear that this was no longer just about one man's behavior. It had grown into a story about power, control, and fear. Then came the discovery that changed everything. A new video appeared online. The footage was blurry and recorded at night, but what it showed caught everyone's attention. A person wearing a hood was seen standing outside Anita's apartment on the night she disappeared. The time shown on the video matched the timeline of her disappearance. The person stayed near the door for several minutes, looking around nervously before going inside. A short time later, the camera showed the same person leaving quickly. Although the person's face could not be seen, many people thought the figure's body shape and movements looked familiar. The video spread across the internet, and people argued over every second of the footage, trying to identify the hooded person. Some believed it was Pastor Lovy because of the way the figure walked and stood. Others strongly disagreed. The police refused to confirm or deny anything. which only led to even more rumors. Reporters crowded around the church, Anita's family, and anyone connected to the case, hoping to get answers. At the same time, Pastor Lovy finally responded. During a live-streamed sermon, he stood behind the pulpit looking calm, although his face appeared tired and pale. He denied every accusation, saying that people were trying to destroy both him and the church. He described Anita's disappearance as a terrible tragedy, but insisted that he had nothing to do with it. His supporters filled the live chat with messages defending him and encouraging him to stay strong. Outside the church, however, protesters gathered with signs demanding justice. The church, once known as a place of peace and worship, had become the center of a growing controversy. Then, another shocking development followed. Anita's car was discovered abandoned on the edge of town near a quiet, wooded area. Police quickly secured the location and carefully searched the vehicle for clues. The inside looked strangely clean, almost too clean. There were no fingerprints, no personal belongings, and nothing that could easily help investigators. It seemed as though someone had carefully removed anything that could be used as evidence. However, detectives made an important discovery. Hidden beneath the lining of the trunk, they found a torn piece of fabric and a single earring. Anita's sister later identified the earring as one that belonged to Anita. With this new evidence, police stepped up their investigation. They questioned several people, including members of the church leadership. Soon, rumors spread that one church leader had broken under pressure during questioning and shared disturbing information about how the church handled its private affairs. The stories included claims of manipulation, hidden relationships, financial wrongdoing, and other secret activities that went far beyond what anyone had expected. But where was Anita? Was she still alive? Who had made the recording? And if she wasn't found soon, would she ever be found? Let's take a closer look. The shocking twist in Anita's disappearance. Fear and uncertainty had taken over the town. Every new clue only made the mystery even deeper. The police searched the area where Anita's car had been found. They brought in search dogs, drones, and forensic experts, hoping to find something important. But despite all their efforts, they found nothing. There were no new clues, only more questions. It was almost as if Anita had simply disappeared without leaving a trace. Then, an unexpected witness came forward. An elderly woman named Martha, who lived near the wooded area, told police she had seen something strange on the night Anita vanished. At first, she thought it was just a man and a woman having an argument, so she didn't think much about it. But after hearing Anita's voice in the leaked recording, she couldn't stop thinking that the woman she saw might have been Anita. Martha recalled seeing a frightened woman standing beside a black van as a man blocked her path. Moments later, the van's side door opened and they disappeared. Investigators reviewed traffic camera footage and eventually found a blurry image of the van, but its covered license plate prevented them from identifying the owner. But the most disturbing discovery came next. The black van had not only been seen near the woods, it had also been parked outside the church earlier that same night. The town quickly became divided. Some church members still believed Pastor Lovy was innocent and insisted he was being framed. Others felt there was now too much evidence to ignore. Had Anita uncovered a dark secret inside the church? Had someone silenced her before she could reveal the truth? Just when everyone thought the case couldn't become more shocking, another anonymous message arrived at the police station. It was a handwritten letter with shaky writing that read, "You're looking in the wrong place. She's closer than you think." The message left everyone confused. What did "closer than you think" really mean? Police treated the letter as a serious lead. If Anita wasn't buried somewhere far away, could she still be alive? Was she being held somewhere nearby, hidden where no one would think to look? The questions terrified the entire town. Then something even more horrifying happened. Another video was leaked. This time there was no hooded person and no shaky camera recording from a distance. The video was filmed up close inside a dark room. A woman's bruised face could barely be seen. She looked terrified. Then, a quiet voice behind the camera whispered, "Time is running out." Panic spread across the town. The new video seemed to confirm everyone's worst fear. Anita was still alive, but she was in terrible danger. The police worked day and night, studying every part of the video. The walls behind her looked old and rough, possibly from a basement or an abandoned building. The light kept flickering, as though it was powered by a weak electricity source. But the most chilling part was the voice. This time, it wasn't disguised. It sounded calm, controlled, and almost as if it was mocking the investigators. Detectives listened to the recording again and again, comparing the voice with different suspects. Some believed it belonged to Pastor Lovy. Others thought it might be someone even closer to Anita, but they still had no proof. The town had now become a place filled with anger and fear. Some people demanded Pastor Lovy's immediate arrest, while others accused the police of failing to solve the case. Then, just as the chaos reached its peak, another shocking twist emerged. What was discovered? Could it lead to rescuing Anita? Let's find out. Kidnapping clue. Discovery. The black van had finally been found. It had been abandoned on the edge of town, hidden behind an old warehouse that had not been used for years. The doors were unlocked, and the inside smelled of damp wood and old gasoline. There were clear signs that something terrible had happened. Deep scratches covered the walls, strands of hair were caught in the seat fabric, and a torn piece of clothing was trapped between the seats. Police confirmed that the clothing belonged to Anita, but she was nowhere to be seen. As officers searched the area around the warehouse, they made a chilling discovery. At the back of the building was a door secured with heavy chains, but someone had recently tried to force it open. The officers quickly broke the chains, fearing what they might find inside. The room was empty, except for a wooden chair, loose ropes lying on the floor, and one small object sitting on a table. It was Anita's locket. The officers immediately realized what it meant. Anita never took off that locket. If it had been left behind, she must have dropped it on purpose. It was a clue, a silent cry for help. The kidnapper had been there only a short time earlier, but had already moved her to another location. It seemed like the kidnapper was always staying one step ahead of the police. There was no time to waste. The search became even bigger. Roads were closed, abandoned buildings were searched, and officers went from house to house looking for any sign of Anita. As every hour passed, fear spread across the town. Everyone remembered the words from the mysterious video. Time is running out, but time was running out for what? Then, late in the middle of the night, another letter arrived at the police station. This time, it was not another warning. It contained only a set of coordinates written in the same neat, careful handwriting as before. Within minutes, a line of police cars raced toward the location. The coordinates led them deep into the woods, far from town, where an old abandoned cabin stood hidden among the trees. The forest was completely silent as the officers approached. The cabin looked old and weak, with dirty windows covered in dust. The officers drew their guns and surrounded the cabin. The front door was slightly open. One officer slowly pushed it wider, and the old wood creaked loudly. Inside, the air smelled of damp wood and metal. A single lantern on a dusty table gave off just enough light to see the room. In the middle of the cabin sat Anita. She was tied to a wooden chair with her hands bound in front of her. Her head hung low. Her clothes were torn. Her face was pale, but she was still breathing. A wave of relief swept over the officers until they noticed someone else in the room. Standing quietly in the shadows at the back of the cabin was a man. His face showed no fear, and his cold eyes remained fixed on the officers. He did not try to escape or fight. Instead, he smiled as they moved closer. Then he calmly said, "You were never supposed to find her." His words sent chills through everyone in the room. Before anyone could react, he slowly raised one hand. In it was a small remote control. So, what do you think about the shocking revelation by Pastor Lovy Elias's wife? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.